the premier sports talk radio. It's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.
Welcome back to another great episode of Tony's Takes live right here on YouTube for the best show in sports talk radio. It is Tony's Takes. And unfortunately, I am alone in the studio today, but luckily we've got Jimmy D on the phone lines. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing good, Tony. I'm glad that I could call in at least at minimum.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good episode. We got 20 minutes of Jimmy's time, and then he's got to meet with a DJ who's not named Anthony because he's got big wedding plans. So, but before we can talk about Jim's wedding, I think we need to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. But before we do that, we're going to let people pile into the live stream show. Yes, this episode is actually being live streamed for once. It's been a little bit. It's been a minute, some would say. It's been about a month, actually, if we want to get real technical, since our last live stream. But we're going to do a quick 30-minute episode now. We got 20 minutes of Jim's time, and then I'll close out with 10 minutes of reflection on the St. Joe's Hawks. But enough about me. Jimmy's time is so valuable. We don't have him for much of it. Jim, we're going to talk about the Eagles, but I also want to get your take on Simmons and the Phillies because you and I were both at the game last night. But first, Eagles, Jim, what were your thoughts? We both tied as well. So the big tie, we were both at the edge of our seats, hoping that the Eagles would cover in the last probably 5 minutes of the game. But unfortunately, they came up short. And, my thoughts on the game kind of seemed like we reverted to Doug Peterson style. I mean, we aired the ball out a few times, didn't connect a lot. Hurts came up short. It was kind of a rough game to watch. 17-11. The score, it does show exactly kind of what happened on the field. It was ugly football. Both teams really just couldn't really get going. Shanahan's a good play caller and everything, but the Eagles missed on a lot of opportunities. I have 16 points where I think that they could have gotten, and I think that we could have easily won that game, but it was just ugly football from us. Jim, I think one thing that really stood out to me was the fact that I was watching the game, and I texted you right away when this happened, but that and I think everyone in Philadelphia sports is talking about this, the touchdown that was called back. That was critical to the Eagles. And what did I say last week? This game is so important. It's one where the team's better than you. You can still win it. You got to capitalize on those points. You can't make mistakes like they did on that play. And by making a mistake, you gave up 7 easy points right before the half. You would have been up 10-0, but instead the ball gets turned around. The 49ers are able to kick a field goal, then score a touchdown. Now they're up big against you on the road, and going into halftime, they know they're the better team. They have the upper hand on the road, and now they can milk the clock. And even George Kittle himself said that.
Sure, and you're looking at, I know you don't credit Jake Elliott with any wrongdoing with that blocked field goal, but from what I could tell, it was a low kick, and he didn't really make it hard for them to block it. So I saw that mistake as well, and then. The 4th and goal, when they went for it, instead of going for the field goal, I thought that was probably just a rookie mistake. I know maybe the analytics told Nick Sirianni that it would benefit them, but, I thought that was an easy 3 points we could have had. And now you're looking at a game where it's like, 17-14. And, we're still in it, and maybe the rest of the game changes because of that.
Yeah, and I think the main theme, we can talk about whatever pinpoint part of the game messed it up for the Eagles. I think the take back you and I both have is this team could have won the game. They had at least a chance to win the game, and they didn't capitalize on it. And it worries me going forward. Can they capitalize on it against teams that are just as good as the 49ers? Now, who knows if the Cowboys are just as good? They looked pretty good last week, if you asked me. But, I think the Cowboys are not at the caliber of the 49ers, and I think that this week's game is winnable. I don't think the Eagles made
big mistakes, right? There was no interceptions thrown, and correct me if I'm wrong.
No interceptions thrown or anything. Yeah, I
no
agree.
turnovers, and so that kind of gives me hope against the Cowboys. And the defense still looked good. We held Garoppolo back. He's a competent quarterback. We didn't capitalize on some missed throws, which would have been big for. That's like another point. We didn't get any turnovers. How many of those balls look like we could have gotten turnovers that would have changed the tide in our favor, especially against a road team? So I think it's those little things where we're putting ourselves in the right spot to win, and then we're not doing what is necessary in order to walk away with the win. And so I think go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think the whole game is just evident of what it was. The whole game was a missed opportunity, and throughout the entire game there was missed opportunities. So I think that the gameplay gave you the result that you were going to get.
Yeah. So now we're looking forward. I mentioned the Cowboys. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys? Do they scare you at all?
So one thing I want to comment on, I do think I'm starting to lean more towards Tony's take from last week, where you were saying that game was crucial for the rest of the season. I really do. I'm starting to think maybe that was so crucial. Going into this Cowboys game,
they always come back to me, man. They always come back to Tony.
I think that this might be a weird year where maybe we put it together in Dallas, and then maybe we lose the home game to Dallas. Because I don't think that we've really defended home that well against Dallas, and I think that we're going to split this year. I really do. I think that we're at least a competent team. We're not going to be swept the way that we have been before. So I think that we go down there, we show them up a little bit Monday night. I think Monday night is an interesting game. I don't think I'm one of those guys that thinks that all the games should be played on Sunday. Well, and maybe one game on Monday, but I really I don't like Thursday night either. But I think that Monday night we go down there to Dallas and we kick some butt.
So you thinking that they're walking away? So Jim, the I'll give you the line now since we're talking about it.
Sure.
But it's Cowboys minus 3.5, and then the over/under is 52. You got to pick first last time, so I'll give my take first out of fairness. Even though there's an odd number of games this year, I'm gonna take Eagles to cover the 3.5. And then I'm going to take the over on the under-over. And the reason why I'm going to take the over is because I think the Cowboys have a good enough offense where they'll score some points against a really good Eagles defense. And I want to read a quote from Tim McManus to you as well. But I think there's enough firepower here where the Cowboys can score some points. It's a division game. And I think it's going to be high-powered where the spread, on the other hand, I just don't see the Cowboys winning. So that's why I'm taking the Eagles.
Oh, Tony, I hate to do this, and you didn't want to do it last week. I'm going to do the same exact thing. Oh. I'm taking the Eagles with the points, and I'm taking the over. I think the Cowboys defense for the last 4 years or so has been suspect. I think that what was it last year? They averaged letting up like 32 points a game, and I think that this Eagles offense is competent. You haven't even seen the tight end usage that they're going to use, and Dallas Goedert always comes alive against Dallas, which is funny in itself.
The irony.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see this offense explode. I think Miles Sanders comes alive against Dallas. It's a great rivalry game, and I think that we're going to score a lot of points. And I actually think that the Eagles, while we only let up 17 and 6, we're due for a game that we're probably going to let up 25 or 26 points, and that's going to be a rivalry game, NFC East game, and I think that comes, especially with the Brandon Graham injury and everything. I think that that's going to come up now.
Yeah, the Brandon Graham injury could really hurt this defense in the sense that we're not going to be holding people to 9 points; we'll hold them to 20 or 17.
Exactly.
And I want to mention the other thing: you're in Texas on, in the Astrodome, I guess you want to call it, or whatever, AT&T Stadium. It's indoors, it's perfect temperature, perfect weather. So it's better for offense. So that's why I'm thinking the only thing that would hold me back is does the Eagles defense stop them? That's what would worry me, and that's what's keeping me from saying it's going to be under the 53. But I'm going to take a risk, and I think you're going to join on with me in regards to that. Trying to think of one other thing about the Eagles that was just literally top of mind. But do you want to continue? Is there anything you want to mention before we move on to the Sixers?
No, I don't have anything else on the Eagles. I think it'll be a good game, and it might be a Monday night worth watching.
Yeah. Jimmy's hot takeaway from this: ban ban Monday Night Football. That's what I got from this conversation. That's a hot one, Jim. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm a Sunday traditionalist.
I kind of respect it. The games are just the 1:00 Sunday games are my favorite. I know people like 4:30, but it gets dark in the winter. The 1:00 game is what I really like and enjoy.
I don't really like 8:20 games when you got to go to work the next day. I think it's nonsense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's why you should just quit your job and not work. Okay, Jim. So let's get to it with the Ben Simmons drama. Now, I didn't prep you for this, and I said you're going to call about the Eagles for the first 10 minutes, but I think you and I are in pretty much agreement about the Eagles. It's still early. We still don't know what this team is, and they're still competent. So I think we just keep riding with them and until the wheels completely fall off the wagon. There's still positives with this team.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to read the chat real quick. Evan Lehman goes, more football equals more better. So I think the fans of Tony's Takes agree with you, Jim, on your Monday Night Football take. But the Eagles actually look okay for now in regards to what could have been. But the Sixers, on the other hand, look like they're absolutely falling apart, especially now that it seems to me, and this is my takeaway from the whole situation, we can never, ever draft or sign players that are represented by Rich Paul. This is an absolute disaster. And I don't know if you heard the clip of Mike Missinelli going off. I would play it for you if you were in the studio, Jim, but unfortunately our equipment doesn't let you hear what the clip would be saying. They are swirling the vultures from other cities, these media people from SB Nation and all these other places, circling around Simmons, trying to get any inch of favoritism with Rich Paul and the Sixers tweeting out favorable things for Ben Simmons. These are quote-unquote reporters, but really they're just tweeting out what Rich Paul wants to hear and creating a media atmosphere in which the 76ers are demonized. And Philly media is not going to stand for it. I know you're not going to stand for it. This thing's a whole big mess, and what should we do? What should the Sixers do, Jim?
Well, first off, we need to protect Tyrese Maxey, right? Because he's another Rich Paul, athlete, and I love Tyrese, and I think that he wants to be here, and I didn't see anything from him, in the last year that he wasn't going to. He didn't like being in Philly. I think he enjoyed playing for Philly, and I think he enjoyed his time on the court for the first time as a NBA professional. The Ben Simmons stuff. There's always that media, like demonizing the city, demonizing the player. Which side are they going to take? The whole Ben Simmons drama it has to. We got to move past it at this point. I can't stand it. I can't stand that we have a player who we did invest time and we did invest money into him and we did invest support. People like to say that Philly doesn't support Ben Simmons, and they forget that we gave him a max contract and that everybody bought Ben Simmons jerseys, including myself, before he even played a game for the Sixers. And it's just, the last time we were in the studio, before the last time we were in the studio, was the last time I wore a Ben Simmons jersey. And it will forever be the last time I ever wear it. I'm going to have to get rid of it at this point.
Will you burn the jersey, Jim?
I will not burn the jersey. I'll give it to somebody that might need a jersey more than me.
Wow, Jim is going the charitable route. I think we should have a bonfire and live stream it on Tony's Takes.
I'll send it to the land down under. They'll probably like it.
Oh, the Aussies. So I guess what my whole feeling on this is I think we hold Ben Simmons. I think we hold him and really make him look bad.
I agree.
And make an example of him for the rest of the league and be the team that stands up to these players who act like this. You didn't play well. And you're going to act like that? We've got you for 4 years. You don't play basketball for 4 full years. You won't come back and be a good player. You'll get out of shape. There's no way around it. You can't simulate NBA play.
How old is Ben?
He's my age. He's 25.
25. That's okay. That's what I thought. So we're talking about 4 years. He would be 29 by the time that he played basketball again.
Yeah, tell me how good your knees are at 29.
Well, if you're sitting the bench, maybe they're a little bit better than
somebody else. But your athleticism's going to go away. You're going to lose 4 years of your career, and we'll hold on to you, and we'll prove you didn't play well. You didn't want to show up to training camp. We were willing to help you move, but you got to bring something to us, right? You can't just leave the Sixers high and dry. You have a fiduciary duty to us as well.
Right.
And I'm tired of these players pushing us around. You don't get to do that.
Well, the NBA is unique in that aspect. It's like the only major sport where the players have all the control.
Not anymore. Not with Philadelphia on the case, and not with Daryl Morey. I don't think Daryl Morey's going to take it. I think they're going to make it as uncomfortable as possible, which is totally fine by me. I think it's the only way that you get out of this, and I hope it all works out. I hope Ben comes to his senses. It's not good for him. We have too much power over him. 4 years is a lot of time, is a ton of time. So you got to be real careful if you're Ben Simmons. Step really lightly, because even go ahead.
I'm going to assume that you're in agreement about the trades that are, being proposed right now. The John Wall and it possibly Wizards trade. I'm sure you're probably in agreement that you don't want to see him go for, John Wall or some bums from Minnesota or anything like that.
No, I'll sit on him. I'll wait. It doesn't hurt me, and we don't have to pay you. He's going to get fined. He gets his pay withheld. So it doesn't cost the organization anything. It costs us a roster spot. But in the end of the day, he didn't show up to do his job. He doesn't get the money. He doesn't get the contract money. The organization can save it. They can't spend it because it's allocated to him. But if he doesn't show up, it doesn't get spent.
So let me ask you this, Tony.
Yeah.
How does this all look? If we take a step back and we look at what Danny Green was saying to the fans, and how we see Ben Simmons interact. He's with the Jenner girl or with Maya Jama at Wimbledon. When we take a step back and we look at everything about how Ben acts, what does this say about the situation? With Danny Green saying that the fans need to calm down and whatnot.
Danny Green's going to protect his boys, right? Because at the end of the day, Danny Green's the one who's got to play with him. However, we are the fans. We can have our own opinion. I hate when people say, shut up, you don't know, or they tell people to be quiet just because they're not a basketball player. You can do this with any argument in society. When people are speaking up, and a lot of people are, and it's a lot of people doing it, maybe there's some validity to the arguments they're saying, and maybe you should take a step back and listen. So if Danny Green, you want to protect your boy, that's fine. But maybe the fans are right when they say that this isn't good, that this isn't okay for players to do that, and that they also have a responsibility to us. So Danny Green's out there protecting his boy, but where's Danny Green to Ben Simmons defending the fans? Right? Who's going to defend us then? Right?
Yeah.
That's my problem. Because at the end of the day, Ben Simmons is gone. We're still here, and the organization needs to be very careful. Who matters more? Right? Who puts the money in the pockets? It's us.
That's the problem. That's the problem with what Danny Green said. Is he didn't see past the possibility that he would be left here without Ben Simmons. Right. So now all we have is his comments, and Ben Simmons is on another team. How are we going to love Danny Green now because he told us that we need to back off players and stop pushing them to be the great player that they want to be?
Right. And that's my problem. Right. He's thinking, I get why he's saying it, and he's welcome to say it, but just don't push us aside so casually, so cavalier. Defend your boy Ben Simmons, but also have a little reverence and respect for us, because maybe we're right too, or maybe we're actually right and you're wrong, or even if you were right, tread lightly, because once the mob or it's like an angry mob almost. Once they've made up their mind, they've made up their mind. So even for his benefit, right? Looking out for him. I wouldn't have advised for him to say that. I'd be tread very carefully. Ben Simmons, who knows if Ben would say the same thing for you? That guy never says anything to defend anyone but himself. I think that's the thing we've learned the most. He's selfish.
Yeah.
Danny Green, be very careful before you tread out there. Who says Ben was going to defend you the way that you just defended him and risk his liking with the fan base? I don't know if that was going to happen, because it's not like it's Jimmy Butler, a guy who will defend his friends,
Right.
That's how I feel about it. Jim, I know we're closing in on the time that you need to go and see your DJ. Let's talk Phillies real quick. I was at that game. Bryce Harper has to be the MVP. Even if they don't make the playoffs, he has to be the MVP. That throw was unbelievable.
Amazing throw. So you had the first base angle, which I thought
I was right in front. I was right in front of it.
I was over in left field, up underneath the jumbotron. So
second or first level?
Second level. I had a big view. I could see the whole thing. It was amazing. It looked like the ball shot out of a cannon. Rather, it was crazy. The ball just shot out just so fast.
And he threw it flat-footed too.
Well, he's just such a talented player, and I thought that he had a great game. It was, we got a Wheeler night and a Bryce Harper night and a McCutchen home run, and it just seemed like as bad as the Orioles are, it was still a good baseball game to attend. I just I wish that we won 4-0, not 4-3.
I agree. There was points in that game where I thought we were going to lose. That's for sure. But you were right there for the McCutchen home run. It was funny. I was sitting next to my friend, and I go, great, the one guy who can't hit a home run for us. And what does he do? He blasts it right out of the park. You knew immediately when he hit it, it was going out. And it was great to see. That really energized the team that when they went and when the Orioles came back and tied the game, the Phillies still kind of felt that they had waken up their offense just enough to finally score, because they had stranded some guys on first and second, mainly on second, a couple times in the previous innings, and they just never did anything with it. And then finally, when McCutchen scores, it's kind of like the lid was removed. They figured out how to score again.
With that big 2-out rally with
Yep.
Miller hitting it to the wall and
Verling
hitting this thing. Yeah.
And Verling, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it completely correctly, but he runs out that first pitch, runs it out to first base, and they get the error, and it kind of is like a little luck towards us, right? He runs it out hard, and he gets rewarded.
I'm a big fan of Verling. He seems to be like lightning in a bottle right now.
Yeah, he played really well. He got on base twice, I think.
Yeah.
And Harper, of course, was on twice. And then JT drives those runs in, which you got to love JT.
Yeah, you know what? I was saying a lot of bad things about JT pretty much the majority of that game. And then finally he kind of woke up there and drove in those runs, and I was really excited. I was happy to be proven wrong, that's for sure.
He let a ton of balls go by him.
Yeah, that was not a great defensive game for JT Realmuto, but
how many guys? We let two guys got all the way over to second or third off those bad pitches. And
yeah,
with
really,
Wheeler,
really
with Wheeler
good.
too, you wouldn't think that would happen.
And his batting average is down this year. It just reminds me of like Pat Burrell-esque years where Pat Burrell would only play when a big contract was coming up.
Wow, Jim's got the guns out for JT.
I do. I like JT. I was a catcher by my history, and I'm partial to catchers, but I guess maybe with that partialness, I'm highly critical as well. So I don't know. I just want to see more out of him. He was a Silver Slugger for like 2 or 3 years in a row. I want that to happen every year.
No, I totally agree. Jim, I think I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to say this real quick about the Phillies, and you can tell me if you agree or not. I still think the playoffs are a hope for us. You got to win the next 2 games. You got to win this series, possibly win all 3 games, and then you got to beat the Braves.
Got to beat bad teams. It's simple. It's really easy.
Even if they win 2 against the Pirates, all they have to do is win all 3 against the Braves, and it's tied. So
yep.
Let's hope it happens.
Tony.
Well,
yeah,
Jim,
I hope so.
Thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
All right, see you next week. Thanks for having me.
Jimmy D on the line. Really do appreciate it, Jim. A little applause for Jim there with some great takes about the Philadelphia Phillies. And before we wrap up the show, we're going to talk about St. Joe's Hawks real quick before I close it all out. However, if you're listening right now, live on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to us. Double-click the notification bell. That way you get notified every time we go live here on Tony's Takes on YouTube. We're getting back into the football swing of things. We're getting close to college basketball. A lot more live episodes are coming your way from Tony's Takes. Also, follow us on Twitter at Tonys_takes for live updates regarding our shows. And you can always listen to the reruns of this on Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and it is guaranteed to be read on the show. Let's go to St. Joe's Hawks real quickly. Oh, I were to read this thing from Tim McManus. I never got to read it for Jim, but it goes like this. This is about the Eagles. Defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon was a hot commodity this offseason, and we're starting to see why. His group is tied for second in points allowed and ranks third in passing yards per game through 2 weeks. Here's the key stat. The Eagles have allowed just one pass play of 20 yards to date. So they've only allowed one 20-plus yard play on defense, which tops the NFL. The loss of defensive end Brandon Graham, as Jimmy mentioned, hurts, and they won't be this dominant all year, but it's time to heighten the expectations for this defense. Tim McManus buying in on the Eagles defense. Maybe me taking the over was a little scary. Maybe this defense can hold teams to 20 points like we said. Reason why I'm bringing up St. Joe's basketball. First, I was on Lux's Litterbox podcast talking about St. Joe's about a month ago. I want to bring that up again. Make sure to go and listen to that episode, and then go listen to the Gola Boys on LaSalle, bringing back the old Tony's Takes rivalry with the Gola Standard. Always love seeing that. Also, I'm going to be on the 3 Bid League podcast next week. To find that podcast, just search the number 3 and then Bid League podcast, and I'm on there talking about Jordan Hall and his return to St. Joe's after a crazy offseason and how he can potentially be probably the best player in the A10. I talk with the fellas about it. It's a great episode. I'll tweet it out on the Tony's Twitter account. I'll definitely talk about it on our next episode live in the studio, but pretty much I go in depth with the fellas, talk, and Tyler's been on Tony's Takes. Tyler's one of the hosts of the 3 Bid League. We go in depth about Jordan Hall, and it's a really good episode, and I'll make sure to share it with everyone. Jon Rothstein of CBS was at St. Joe's and LaSalle over the past few days. I think it was yesterday, technically, and he got to sit in on both practices. And I'm not going to talk about LaSalle. I'm going to talk about St. Joe's. That's my alma mater. And the reason I'm going to talk about St. Joe's is because Jon Rothstein tweeted out what he thinks the potential lineup is going to be for the St. Joe's Hawks, the potential starting lineup. And it goes like this. Eric Reynolds, who is the freshman guard, will be the starting point guard, technically. Now, Jordan Hall's going to handle the ball, but Reynolds will be listed as the 1. At shooting guard, Jordan Hall, who's 6'8". So we just went from someone who's 6'4". Our shooting guards could be 6 feet 8 inches tall, which is unbelievable. Then our small forward, is going to be Taylor Funk, who I thought would be our power forward, but instead he is the small forward. Obina, the transfer from Vandy, is going to be the power forward. He's 6'10". And Coleman, who's a transfer from East Carolina, I believe, or either Coastal or East Carolina, he's going to be center. That is a really big lineup. I don't know where the three-point shooting is. I don't know if Jon Rothstein is thinking correctly here. Coleman is not that good where he could start at center, unless he comes out as a dominant center, and we didn't know. But he really wasn't that dominant in a conference that wasn't that great. It should be Obina at center, should be Funk at the 4, should be Hall at the 3, and then either Forrest or Brown at the 2. Someone who can shoot the 3 consistently. I'm thinking Forrest. It has to be someone who can help stretch the floor, because I don't know if Reynolds can shoot or not. Rothstein also was really impressed with Reynolds, said he's really athletic, really gifted, which I knew that going in. He's going to be a great player. The question is, where are we going to get the shooting from? Because Obina and Coleman are it's going to crowd too much. I don't like that. I like Funk and Forrest, those two stretching the floor out, and then Reynolds and Hall being the 3 and 4 option to shoot from 3, as both of them will probably be around 35 to 40%. I said Hall's actually a better 3-point shooter than people believe. I think he can finish at 38% on the year, but that's if he's making the correct decisions. If the way this roster is, it's going to be so easy to run Hall off the 3-point line. He's going to be the only player standing on it with Coleman, Obina, and Funk. You just have too many big guys standing there who aren't going to stretch the floor out and be other 3-point threats. If you put Forrest in at the 3, Hall can dish to him, or put him at the 2 technically. Hall can dish to him and spread the court out. Gives Hall a lot more space to operate with the gaps. You get more shooters around him. Put a real center in there, have him block out, have him set picks for Hall. That's really important. We do need a big guy, but we also need a shooter or two to help spread the floor for a guy like Hall, because if we spread the floor, it gives Hall, 1, the option to drive to the lane, to set a pick with the center, to give more space for a pick and roll. It also gives options to pass for someone on a dribble drive, pass it out to Funk, pass it out to Forrest, pass it out to Reynolds. You could drive, pass it to Reynolds, and he can drive. You can have Hall go into the lane and Reynolds do a back cut or Forrest do a back cut. You can have, instead of a kick out to a guy shooting the 3, you have 2 guys cutting, one with a back door, one driving the lane. All with a pit being set with Coleman. There's so many options if you add another shooter and take out 2 centers and put only 1. I don't want a Sixers problem. I don't want the floor to be too clogged, and that's what I'm worried about, in all honesty. I want a little bit more space. I want a real center. I see the value in a real center, but I see more value in better 3-point shooting. Funk is big enough to play the 4. A 6'10" guy is big enough to be a center in the Atlantic 10 as a starter. Doesn't mean you can't bring Coleman in. In fact, I like the idea of having a consistent big man on the court. If you put Obina and Coleman on the court at the same time, who's coming off the bench? That worries me even more. I'd rather have one big guy out there for every play, kind of like LaSalle always had a big man last year. They might not be world beaters, but at least they're covering your bases for you. And then you have Hall spreading it out to Reynolds, Funk, and Forrest, knowing very well that both Hall and Reynolds can drive the lane. Forrest can drive the lane too if they want. I just want to add a little bit more flexibility in the starting lineups. Could be really important. Or Cameron Brown too could be in there. I want some size, but let's make it a little bit more balanced. Let's not go too heavy on the bigs. It's like I don't want the mean to be because of extremes. Last year we had way too many shooters on the court at once and not enough big men. Now it looks like we're going to have way too many big men. We need to find balance. That way Hall has way more options. And if you have two shooters, maybe Hall has an opportunity to pull it from three. If you have two other guys who are splashing threes all the time, as I said, and I said this on the 3-Bid League podcast, Hall can shoot 38% if we have guys like Reynolds and Funk and Forrest distracting and being a big enough threat to give Hall open three looks. And then also to make sure that Hall, if he does get double teamed, he can kick it out to someone who's shooting a three. Or if he can't get double teamed because the other 3-point shooters are shooting so well, Hall can dribble drive past people. It just benefits the team so much more. I guess my whole big summary on this is I don't want the team to get bogged down by big men. I've seen it with the Sixers. I don't want it to happen at St. Joe's. Well, that will do it for our episode of Tony's Takes. Really do appreciate everyone listening to the show on my little St. Joe's rant. We'll talk more about St. Joe's when Jimmy gets into the studio. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at Tony's Takes. You'll see that lovely logo. Double click the notification bell and subscribe. That way you get notified every time we go live. Follow us on Twitter at Tonys_takes. Email the mailbag. We haven't had a mailbag question in a while. Email the mailbag to get your questions on the show. It's tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. That's tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. And finally, follow us on Apple Podcast it's just Tony's Takes, just like the YouTube channel. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. That way you can listen to the show after YouTube live stream has finished. And you can, I believe, yes, you can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I guarantee it will be read on the show. Well, I want to thank Jim for calling in. We really do appreciate that he was able to make time for us, even with his busy wedding schedule. And I really want to thank everyone for tuning in to this week's episode of Tony's Takes. Look forward to seeing everyone right here on YouTube for the next episode of Tony's Takes next week. Thanks for listening, and go Eagles.
The premier sports talk radio, it's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.